Hello, everybody, and welcome to Sports Speak, where we speak sports. I'm your host, Landon Miller. Today, we will go over topics such as Baker Mayfield, the national championship game, Aaron Rodgers, COVID-19 in the NFL. Don't forget to wipe your feet. That means subscribe, share, and like. We'll be right back right after this. Thank you once again for joining us here with Sports Speak. I'm your host, Landon Miller. I'm here with special guest here, Sammy Wells in the building. Today we
What's
got
up,
a
man?
host of things we going through here. Sammy, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, man.
That's good
Can't
to hear.
complain.
Great to hear, and I'm glad
New
that you're
year,
back.
new year.
Absolutely. Happy New Year to you and yours. And I'm glad we here. Welcome back in. And man, I got a group of things I want to talk with you with. So if you don't mind, we just gonna jump right in.
All right.
Your boy, the one that you fantasize about, the one that keeps you up at night, the one that you wake up in the morning and the only thing on your mind is him and him only. You know what we're talking about. Baker Mayfield.
Oh goodness.
So here we are,
Uh,
man. We enter in the end of the season, and the Baker Mayfield trade rumors are going round and round and round. What's your take on this? Where do you stand?
I mean, I think Cleveland's going to give Baker another chance. Let's give the benefit of the doubt. I mean, Baker's been hurt most of the season, and he's been going out and playing games because of he wanted to show his toughness that he's down for um the Browns fans and the Browns stadium, and it's his house and the progressive commercials, and he's just going out there being a warrior. And you always know Baker Mayfield to always have that chip on his shoulder. If you tell him that he can't do it, then he's going to go out there and prove that he can do it. And let's be honest, he has had good seasons. His first year as a rookie, his third season there in the NFL, he has had good seasons. He had a slump in the second one, but in the fourth year, he's injured. You can only talk about the injuries. Now, if he wasn't injured and he was playing like he'd been playing this season, then you know it's time to worry. But granted, you have to look at. I mean, you basically have to look at the injuries, and a lot of people says yes, he had Odell Beckham, he has um, Jarvis, he has Austin Hooper. I mean, he has all these good tight ends receivers that he can be able to throw with. But I mean, hey, if you injured and you playing through your toughness, but it's not producing anything on the field. I mean, honestly, I think he should have just sat down and had surgery and got it repaired, just like he's doing now.
I think you make some valid points, but in your points to what the problem is. So we're talking about Baker Mayfield being up for a contract extension where he's going to command anywhere from 25 to 30 million a year. And if you're Cleveland, do you really want to invest that in Baker Mayfield? I mean, Baker Mayfield, you've given him a solid running game. You've given him weapons. He's not one of those quarterbacks you say, well, let's see what he can do if he had these weapons, because he's had them. And
One of the best offensive line, yes.
if you look at Odell Beckham and you look at where he's at now in a half a season, and he's got the same amount of touchdowns as he had the whole time that he was with Baker Mayfield. You look at this, you understand it's not something that's you got to think like if you're going to pay somebody 25, 30 million a year, you want to win, and are they going to win with Baker Mayfield?
I
If you
think
look
it's
at
more
Cincinnati,
40. I think it's more in the 40-ish that Baker is looking for them to pay him because in the NFL it's the next man up. So if
yeah,
Dak got paid 40 million, you think Baker Mayfield is looking for his extension to be about 40 million. But I don't think that the Cleveland Browns are gonna go that way. But I say give him the benefit of the doubt, give him his extension that's going to pay him the $19 million, and then let him play his 5th-year option just to see if you want to invest this kind of money in him.
and that's why you got to look at trade him, see what you can get for him, because Dak's expectation is Super Bowl. Cleveland's expectation is not that. And if you look at what they're doing, if you look at the future of Cleveland versus the future of the Bengals are ahead of the Browns right now. And regardless of what you say about Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh is still Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh, as well as they had a down year, what is a down year for Pittsburgh? Pittsburgh has not had a losing season since Jesus turned water into wine. Like, seriously, like, what are we talking about? Like, so you gotta expect them to bounce back. You gotta expect them to be able to build that organization back up. And honestly, if I was to ask you who is the best quarterback in Browns history, do you even know how to answer that question? Like, think about that. Like, like we're talking about the Browns here. So I don't think they're in a position to
Let me
pay
tell you the
somebody.
worst.
They're not in a position to pay somebody that much because they're not in a position of winning. This is not a winning franchise. So if they're not going to win, I don't think you can pay somebody that much. So you might as well get some assets for it. I don't know. Like if it was another team, I'd feel differently. But it's the Cleveland Browns. And Cleveland hosts the Hall of Fame. They don't make Hall of Famers.
Who are you going to trade Baker for? Let's be honest. Who are you going to trade Baker for? Who's going to
Draft
take him?
draft picks. And who knows? You might get a team like Atlanta to take him. Or a team
Matt
that
Ryan's still playing.
for how long? And if you know the Atlanta fan base, they are done with Matt Ryan. So it's you can find teams that might want to take a flyer. Who knows? The San Francisco 49ers might take a flyer on them. If the Seahawks might take a flyer on them because Wilson
Matt
the door.
Ryan is playing better than Baker Mayfield this season.
Okay. Seattle. Russell's
Okay,
gone.
so how you gonna replace Russell Wilson? You're gonna replace replace Russell Wilson with Baker Mayfield?
Russell's going to leave. He's walking out the door. So if Russell leaves, you
Maybe,
ain't got a quarterback.
maybe.
So so there's definitely options out there. There's definitely teams that would at least take a listen into seeing what's going on. And so but
Maybe
that's
the
all hypothetical.
Texans. Maybe the Texans.
Texans, yeah, Texas is another one that do. Miami. You got teams
No,
that will
no,
take at it.
no. I think Miami is too invested into a. He has been playing lights out. Other than the loss that he suffered recently, he's
They
too
try
has
to
been
trade
playing lights
to
out.
every other week. Every other week they try to trade to him. Washington. There's teams out there that'll give you the call.
I think they believe in Heineke. I think they believe in Heineke. I do. I think they believe in Heineke. Heineke beat the GOAT. That's one of his signatures when he beat the GOAT.
Well, you know what? I'm gonna have to stop this conversation here because I refuse to talk about that team until we actually know what that team is called, which is another month away. So we're gonna wait till we figure out what that team's name is before we give it any more airtime here. So moving on, not only I'm gonna change gears, we're gonna change a whole sport here because now we have a return. Now a lot of people are waiting on the Warriors and what's it gonna look like with Klay Thompson. But we've got the return that's already happened since then, and that's Kyrie Irving coming back to the Nets part-time. So part-time player coming to Brooklyn. without actually coming to Brooklyn. How do you, how do you feel about Kyrie Irving sweepstakes happening right now?
I'll say this, that Kyrie Irving coming back to the Nets, I think it was a very powerful thing to see him and his dad hugging at courtside. I think that was powerful. I mean, the game, it was a pretty good game. The Nets won. Um, I would just say that Kyrie Irving is the most luckiest man in America that you can have a full-time job, still get your pay as a full-time job, but work part-time. I mean, that is amazing to me that you can make over $18 million and be part-time at your job. I mean, I don't know any other job that anybody else that can be able to do that but him. It's just I'm just
Sign me
saying.
up. I'll take that job any day of the week. Sign me up for the Kyrie Irving package. That's what I'm gonna start calling it, the Kyrie Irving package. And any job interview now I have, I'm like, do you have the Kyrie Irving package? And I get my full time salary part time,
Exactly.
and then let me travel and collect my per diem every time we travel. Let's do that. Let me get that Kyrie Irving package.
Well, I'll say this, the Nets were thinking they're thinking of more of a championship. They're not thinking as far as the moral ground as far as this position. And the fact that Kyrie is going to miss home games. It really depends as far as New York got a new mayor, so he may be looking at being full time with the Nets. But I just think that the Nets look weak on this because they came out standing firm, like, hey, we're not going to accept you if you're only going to be part time. We want you to come back when you're going to be full time. And then a couple of months later, they said, "Oh well, um, we want to win a championship. We need a championship. So hey, come on, Kyrie."
Which is very interesting to me because they're winning without Kyrie. Like they're doing very well in the Eastern Conference without him. So it's very
Mm.
interesting. Like I was one that was on board with the 76er trade. I thought that would be amazing to trade Kyrie for Ben Simmons and let them just swap because neither one of them were playing for the team. I thought that was going to be a brilliant trade to solve both of their problems, but Kyrie got his way, and this whole COVID-19 thing. Like I kind of waffle with it. I don't know how to feel about players making their own decisions because he was willing to take his consequence of his decision. So
Mhm.
therefore, I can't fault him for it. I can't fault him because he was willing to take the brunt of it. Now, talking about COVID-19, you've seen this happen with a lot of athletes. We had Antonio Brown in the NFL with the fake vaccination card, and now we're seeing with him being released from the Tampa Bay Bucks, leaving $1 million of incentives on the table, plus more because the last game check, all for a possible injured ankle. But how do you feel about him being released? Like, where do you stand with the Tampa Bay and Antonio Brown?
Well, I'll say this. You know what? We need to have a clear story of what happened on that field, because there's so many sides of the story as far as them telling him to go into the game and him telling them that he was hurt. And then there's another alleged report that he said he wasn't going back in because of the targets. So we need a clear understanding what was going on that field, because you have Antonio coming out with text message as far as listing what the coach was saying, and then you have the coach coming out saying that he said exactly this, and there's no clear message in this. Um, I mean, if you look at if this was a battle, I mean, the Buccaneers won because they released him and they're not giving him his incentives. But Antonio Brown, through the NFL union, could get that money, get that money back because of whatever reason, he's lowering it up. So it's really up to that. And I mean, I think that Antonio Brown is really getting off because isn't I'm sorry, but if you fake a vaccine card, isn't that like a federal crime?
It is, and nobody's really necessarily talking about it because nobody really knows how to handle this situation. And the fact is that there's fake vaccine cards all over the place, And one thing, I was talking to, one of the best sports analysts I know, Sir Lawrence Miller, and he pointed out to me the fact that you have to look closely at Antonio Brown because a lot changed with Antonio Brown when he took that big hit in Pittsburgh. And the reactions that he has now are totally different than the reaction that he had before. And I know some people say, well, is this a mental health issue? Is it not? I don't know, but I'm really skeptical and I try to pay a little more attention. And I tell you one thing, when you look at Bruce Arians' reaction in the after the first game, it does kind of line up with Antonio Brown's story. When he came out and he's saying he's no longer a Buck, let's move on. And as aggressive as he was saying that day, to hear Antonio Brown say, you're done as a Buck and do that, like it sounds like the same thing when I look at it. So there seems to be some truth in what he's saying, and the whole thing was just weird because the targets, like he had enough targets and he was definitely still in line to catch every single one of his bonuses. It wasn't like he had already, they went back 2 games beforehand and when they mentioned this to everybody, and he had already done most of the work. Like he was going to catch some of those bonuses that game and would have definitely caught the rest of them by the next game. Like he had plenty of time to get it, and he was so close. He was so close. So to see him walk away from the money is interesting, And I know uh, the team doctor said one thing, but you can't really trust team doctors because they work for the team. And he's sensitive. When I say he's sensitive, I'm not saying like demasculating word of sensitive. What I'm saying is he is overly aware of his situation and protective of it. This is the same guy that left the Raiders because they wouldn't let him wear the helmet he wanted to wear. And they outlawed his helmet. And so, he needs things a certain way. And if he don't have that way, he protects the way he has it. Now, is that because of what happened before? I don't know. But he said he had an ankle injury. He was on the injury report about this ankle injury. So it was definitely there. And I didn't like the way it was reported because I don't know how many news outlets I heard say Antonio Brown took his jersey off and threw it in the crowd. And every highlight you see, you clearly see his pads and his jersey sitting on the sideline. Like it's just to me, it's irresponsible when you obviously are trying to paint a narrative that may be false. If you look at the way he left the field, it wasn't demonstrative. He saluted the fans, he waved to the fans, he gave away some of his, paraphernalia, and he jogged off the field waving. It wasn't like he was demonstrative. It wasn't like he was throwing a fit like they were making it seem. Like it almost seemed like he knew, like it was a farewell or whatever it was, or he was sent off. and he was like, you know what, fine, I'm gonna take it and go off. But him trying to wrap up the crowd and wave to the fans and all that, he didn't look mad to me when he left the field.
Well, I'll say this. It's a we don't know the whole story of what's going on. It's every part of Brown's story and then the Buccaneers story, and we don't know the true story, and we'll never know the true story until it ends up in court where you can't lie under oath. So therefore, it's a we just have to go by the hearsay and alleged reports that they said, hey, you know, this is what happened. This is what you have Brown side and you have the Buccaneers side. So, we just have to wait for um, you know, court because I'm sure Antonio Brown is lowering up because there's some guarantees that he won and that the Buccaneers may owe him. So we have to wait for that.
Well, I'll tell you one thing that we no longer have to wait for. It's coming up very, very soon here. The national championship game. We got Alabama versus Georgia. How do you feel about this game, and what's your pick?
Okay. Let me say this that I think Georgia is going to come and win this game. I think they're motivated to win this game because they lost the first one. But also, let me say that to every every Alabama player, I have no problem with you. To Nick Saban, I think you are one of the best coach, and if I ever get to interview you, I hope that I get to interview you one day. I have the utmost respect for Nick Saban. Who I don't have the most respect for is Alabama fans. I can't stand Alabama fans. They are the most annoying fan base in America. I don't care what people say about the Dallas Cowboys. No, this fan base is the most annoying fan base I have ever met. Everywhere I go, it doesn't even have to be an Alabama football game on. You will hear somebody say roll tide, and there's no game on. No college game on at all. I can't stand Alabama fans. Now, 5% of them I can't stand because 5% of them are realistic. The other 95% of them are just horrible.
You know, I partially agree with you. I don't know who's more annoying: Alabama fans, Laker fans, Cowboy fans, Yankee fans. Like, I don't know who's more annoying with these front runners. Uh, I I I kind of blame the media for the Cowboy fans because there's no reason why every year they should be on the Super Bowl list. Like, there's just no reason for that. Like, that just doesn't make any sense. Um, Alabama at least has a hold on the national championship game. They're there every year. So there's a reason for their madness. Like, I can say, the Lakers have 17 championships. There's a reason for their madness. So I still have to hold that crown to the Cowboys because they're fans. It's because they're always in the front of the media, and I don't know why. And trust me, as a Raider fan, I understand how you can be delusional. Raider fans are the best fans in the world, and we went through some tough, tough years. And as mad as we were, we always came back the following year. So I understand how you can be delusional. Alabama fans aren't delusional. The system is set up for them to win right now. They're winning every year, and they're there. Because of that, I'm a component of expanding the playoff bracket. And people say, "Oh, it's going to cost more game." Not really. If you go from 4 to 8, that's only one additional game. If you go from 8 to 16, or 4 to 16, that's two games. And really, you could have every game in the bracket be the bowl games. The bowl games could be the whole bracket, and then just continue to move and move till you get to the national championship game. And some people are saying, because you're having these blowouts is the reason why you shouldn't expand the playoffs. But that's exactly the reason why you should expand the playoffs. Because if the number three, number four team, if they continue to get blown out, you're still going to have the number five and six teams and number seven team saying, if that was me, we wouldn't have got blown out like that.
Well, I think everybody's going to criticize anything that the college does because let's be honest. When before the playoffs, they had the rankings, and they said, "Oh, some people were that some teams were only getting in because of repetition, and weren't getting in because of their record." You know, there'll be a undefeated team that is undefeated team that got to the top of the ranking list, and well, not get to the top of the ranking list. They'd be at the very probably top 15, and
Yeah.
they weren't going to it. And then you would see USC, and then Alabama. They would have at least probably one or two losses, and they're ranked up in the 1 and 5. So they went to the playoffs for four teams, and then now people are complaining about it. I mean, I don't mind people. I don't mind going to the 8 games, going to an 8 game playoff, or even the 16. I mean, it's it is what it is. What it is. You know, I just think that Alabama fans. Yes, it's a winning. They're a winning team, but you do not have to be that annoying. So, but
So, I mean, the roll tide is a little extra. I'll give you that. But that's what my point is that the four-team system did not change anything. You still got the team at the top, and you still got them undefeated teams, whether it be a TCU certain years or whoever it may be, finishing 6, 7, 8. They're not getting into the playoffs because Alabama and Auburn gets in. And my problem with this is you're supposed to be crowning the best team. And if you can't win your division, your conference, if you're not the best in your conference, we already know you're not the best. So to continue to give you another opportunity to win the championship without giving other conferences the opportunity, to me, I have a problem with. And that's why I have a problem with this game. Because so, for instance, Alabama beats Georgia.
mhm.
Now, if Georgia beats Alabama, Georgia's a national champion. How does that make sense? It
it's
doesn't make sense. Like, because Alabama already beat them.
You can't say that. I mean, you have to agree that Alabama and Georgia are the best team in the country right now. I mean, honestly, I mean,
I
if
mean,
you
I
look
don't
at it,
have
they
to.
are. And Georgia has the number one defense, and Alabama is Alabama. So
I mean, I don't have to, but I will say this particular year, you're probably right. This particular year. Now, in previous years, there has been an argument of teams being left out.
oh, totally agree with you on that. Totally
Yeah.
agree with you on that.
This particular year, I think they pretty much got it correct. So that, I mean, that's where it stands. As far as his actual game, I don't care. I mean, Alabama's always there; they're always winning it, and Nick Saban's going to be sitting there with the Aflac duck, and there you go. Like like it happened, and then you're going to be hearing Roll Tide, and you're going to be seeing those flags and crimson running all through. So you might as well get used to it. You might as well get ready because they're going to be there, and it's one of the weirdest things I've ever seen because normally you have some type of affiliation with college schools that you're fans of, whether you went there or you're from there or you knew somebody there or one of your favorite. Alabama just has fans. They got fans for no reason. Like just their fan base is just fan base. It's a professional team. It's one of the weirdest things I've ever seen. Like you don't see that everywhere. So salute to
Yeah,
them, man.
it's still annoying. It's still annoying. But I would say this that I mean Florida came close to beating Alabama this season.
Yeah,
It came
yeah.
very close. And then also you got to look at Lincoln Riley went to USC. So I'm just thinking about the recruiting that Lincoln Riley is going to do and maybe bring USC back into its glory days.
Mm-hmm. I mean, speaking of recruiting, big shout out to Jackson State and
Almost
and,
definitely.
and their recruiting class. Now listen, if I'm gonna do my pitch right now. I give this pitch from coast to coast to high school student athletes all the time. Go to an HBCU. And the reason why I say this, you have these huge recruiting classes going to these large schools, and they go to these large schools, and either you play at this top level or you don't. And
Mhm.
if you are a top athlete, you can go to these HBCUs, shine, play, get your time, and still get a look to go into the next level. Or you can ride the bench at Ohio State or ride the bench in Alabama because only a certain amount of players are getting on. Mind you, Cam Newton sat behind Tebow and had to transfer out because there's not enough room for everybody to play. Where you can go, still be Division 1, still have a chance to be seen, and still get a chance to go through with the actual ability of going to these HBCUs. You're going to get looked at. Every school can tell you that they have. Alabama A&M had a Robert Mathis. Alabama that you had, Tavares. Like there's guys at every school that get the look, and you can get the look and not have to worry about if they already have somebody in your position that they have to play. That's just my little PSA. Do not be scared of the HBCU. You'll have the HBCU experience, and you'll still be able to get your chance to shine. Or you can go to a school and waste your eligibility by sitting on the bench for 4 years, or go to a smaller school that's not Division 1, and you're not going to get looked at.
Yeah, I would say this that when he got the top recruit, Deion Sanders got the top recruit to come to HBCU. I would just say this that I did not like the way people like went at just like, oh, he's this player is going to HBCU while he downgrading and all that. No, stop it. Okay, there's a lot of NFL players that went to HBCUs that
Hall
are
of
Hall of
Fame.
Famers.
Yep.
So Jerry Rice.
Yep.
So stop it. Just stop it.
All
Stop
worth.
it, people.
And when we go all the way back to Starlight, there's a lot of Hall of Famers, and went to
Exactly.
school. So yeah, but I understand you're frustrated with Alabama. I give you that, but you're not the only frustrated person out there.
I know.
A lot of frustrated people out there.
I want to be the leader fan. I want to be the leader pack of the fan base that hate Alabama fans.
You know who else is frustrated right now?
What's that?
Aaron Rodgers. He's got some frustration, man. How you feel about his little frustration here and the whole MVP situation?
I have a. Let me say this first. I think the dude that came out and said what he said about Aaron Rodgers was wrong. But I look at it that this MVP vote is supposed to be about the talent, supposed to be about what's on the field, the talent on the field. And but if you look at it, it also is a award that is supposed to be on the field, but it is political. It does have its politics in it. And if people tell me that there's never been an MVP that's just based on the talent on the field and there has not been any politics, they are naive.
Okay. I get that. Aaron Rodgers said what he said. He called the guy a bum, and I agree with him. There's no reason for him to come out and say Aaron Rodgers is a jerk, and you can't be a jerk and an MVP at the same time. What? You should not have a vote. And the as a voter, you're not supposed to you're not supposed to tell who you're voting for, but take an opportunity to come out and say, well, I'm not going to tell you who I'm voting for, but I'm telling you who I'm not going to vote for. And for that to be a top candidate, it's not like he said, I'm not voting for Jimmy Garoppolo, where nobody's going to vote for Jimmy Garoppolo. Like it's not like he went after a top candidate, and so that he had an agenda by saying this. It was an attack on Aaron Rodgers, and who are you to attack Aaron Rodgers? I think he should lose his vote. I don't. I have no problem at all with him firing back at him. I know he's come out since then and apologized. But why did you apologize? Because you knew what you were doing when you made this comment. I heard somebody say this recently, and it was from a different perspective of life. But it says, man shouldn't have to apologize about how he felt if that's how he really felt. And he can stand on it. Now, if you can move past things, you can move past things. But if that's how you feel, that's how you feel. So I think there is some more things. I think he was asked to apologize because of what he did, and that's why he apologized. And I don't know, if Aaron Rodgers is the MVP or not, he was attacked, and it's one of those things where when you attack somebody, if you slap somebody, you can't complain about how hard they punched you. I don't want to hear you crying about how hard somebody punched you because you slapped them. I just, like that's just the way that rolls for me. So I'm okay with Aaron Rodgers' frustration. I'm okay. I'm okay with him coming back at him.
I think my only thing with the MVP about the NFL, it does not always have to be a quarterback. I mean, if you look
Yeah.
at the way Watt's been playing for the Steelers, even though the record is not the same as what the Green Bay Packers have, Watts has been a monster this year. I mean, he would get my pick if Henry wasn't hurt and he was still running. I mean, he's hurting and he still have more yards than a lot of running backs in the NFL. I'm just
Was
I
it?
mean,
Yeah.
I think they need to expand. I think they need to expand the MVP vote. I don't think it needs to always be a quarterback.
No, you're right because if you look at the very, very, very few times that it hasn't been a quarterback, it's been record-breaking years, and it's like you have to have the best year a running back has ever had and break the records for it to be a running back. Like you said, Watt is about to break the single season record for sacks. It's like you have to have the greatest season ever at your position to even be considered.
Right.
Where quarterback, is just whoever they want to put in there as quarterback that year. I think you're right. I think it's too heavily set on quarterback, and I don't know what that is, but yeah, it's definitely not
I mean, look at
equally.
Jonathan Taylor. He's been having a great year too. So
Absolutely, yes. A lot of good, and so then to sit there and say, that you have to be a model citizen or you have to, as Aaron Rodgers said, be vaccinated. Is the only reason. It's the only way you can get that award for this season. I don't know. It's too many politics for me, but
yeah.
NFL
And let's
vaccination.
stop the notion. And let's stop the notion that everybody hates Aaron Rodgers about the whole being unvaccinated. First of all, people who's Carson Wentz is unvaccinated. Um who's the Viking? The Viking. Kirk Cousin is unvaccinated. Nobody hates them. They
Yeah,
came out. You lied about your status. That's what people are upset about. It has nothing about do about you being unvaccinated. People didn't like that you lied.
yeah, yeah. That was and the deception that he gave, like, that was definitely a huge part of it, especially the way this all season went and him running around doing whatever he wanted to do and not being around the team. Like there was a lot that went into that. It wasn't just are you vaccinated or not? It was definitely much deeper than that. But speaking of vaccination, do you believe the NFL should mandate the COVID-19 vaccination?
That's a hard question to answer because I would say this, that there's a lot of people that may be allergic to the ingredients for the vaccine. So for those people that are allergic to the ingredients of it, I understand. But I think it just really comes down to people's going to their personal physician or doctors and getting a recommendation about taking the vaccine. And if the NFL does mandate it, they're within their right to do it. It is a private business. They can be able to require, just like they require you as far as a drug test, as far as a background screening, anything else. They can mandate you have a vaccine to have a job there because they're a private business.
That's just truth in that. I think this is all new to everybody. I think there's a lot of reaction and overreactions to a lot of things about it. Only time will tell, and we'll see. Once one league will do it, then other leagues I'm sure will follow suit. But only time will tell. So that's really all. I don't have really much to say about the vaccines. Matter of fact, that's just because the NBA is going to be there as well. As you see players getting called out and extra players giving it the 10-day. At the end of the day, if it was really a real issue for these sports and these teams, they wouldn't be playing the games. But they are. So they're going to put the product on the field. They're going to collect that revenue. They're going to continue to gain their profits. And
Mm.
that's really what we're looking at.
Well, yes, they are. I just think that if they do, they're right. They're in their right to be able to mandate vaccines for them. So you know, unless the one of the ingredients in the vaccine you are allergic to, hey, I understand. Hey, if you're not going to take the vaccine because of that, definitely understand. Definitely understand that. So,
So let me ask you a separate question here. Nothing to do with the vaccine. We're gonna move past that.
all right.
We are halfway through, just about halfway through the NBA season. Who's your MVP?
So MVP.
I'm putting you on the spot.
I have to either give it to Steph Curry or give it to Chris Paul.
Chris Paul pick. Hey, well, those are the two best records in the NBA right now. So I can definitely see, why you pick one of the leaders of those two squads. I think it's been a great start of the season. Steph breaking the record is definitely something. KD leading the league in scoring. You got a lot of surprises out there. Like with the Bulls and there's a lot of surprises out there in the NBA. So I'm really looking forward to what's going to happen in the second season. I'm really interested in seeing uh, Klay Thompson come back. To me, I think it's disrespectful to call Klay Thompson one of the top five best shooters of all time. Honestly, I think he's clearly in the top four, and I don't think he's number four.
Okay, so let's. Why are we bringing this notion that saying that somebody in the top five is an insult? I just don't get it. When they're talking about greatest shooter ever, you're mad that you're in the top five.
I'm just saying, like I don't think it's even debatable. You can't put four guys ahead of him. You just can't. I don't think I think there's a clear top four, and whoever you want to put in at number five is five. And I don't think he's even number four.
I mean,
I think Steph is number one. I think Ozzy, if he's gonna obliterate that record. Then you got of course Reggie and Ray and Clay. And Clay may be better than Reggie or Ray. So that's my opinion. Salute to the Splash Brothers. I'm glad to see him healing and coming back from the injury, out for 2.5 seasons. So we definitely just like to see people being healthy. Definitely, like to, we don't like to see people hurt, like to see injured. So welcome back. Thank you for what you're doing. Nothing but good, positive spirits your way. And that's where I want to be. At this point, with sports analysts, a lot of times there's a lot of negative talk when it comes to talking about athletes and things of that nature. And I don't want to be one of those cats. So I may say some things cheek and tongue at times, but at the end of the day, I want it to be all positive, from what we have there. And if we say anything negative, and if I got to come back on my words, I definitely will, because these are individuals at the end of the day. And so that's where I want to leave it. I thank you so much, man, for the way that you come on the show, the way that you compose yourself, and the way that you address your points. And I thank you, man, for joining me today, man. Sports Speak has been a great avenue for just coming out and just speaking about sports. And I think we've got another great episode. So thank you there. Once again, anybody that's out here watching, please make sure that you subscribe, that you share, that you comment, because that helps the algorithm. We want to make sure that this circulates as much as possible. And Sammy Wells, man, do you want to tell the people how they can find you?
Yes, you can tune in to you can also tune in to Justin every Monday with a new episode, and check us out. Definitely like coming on the show of Sports Speak. It's definitely a good show to view your topics, and you're doing great as a host, man.
I appreciate that. And for everybody that's watching, you guys are our directors. So if there's anything that you want us to talk about, make sure you put it in the comments. Put whatever topics you want us to tackle, whatever teams you want us to address, put it in the comments. If you don't agree with something that we said, put it in the comments. If you want to say something on the show that you think that's important should be brought up, I'll give you your credit. Just put it in the comments. Thank you so much for joining us. We will see you next time. Be blessed.